Hello guys! Welcome everyone back to an episode of Mando-Monday. This is the series where you guys ask the questions and I, of course, answer them. And that can be to do with anything related to Counter-Strike 2, Valve, future upcoming updates such as CS2's first operation, future update to the armory, or maybe it's new returning maps, modes, weapons, or features. If you guys have a question you want a shot at being answered next week's video, leave it down below this comment section as well as my many weekly community posts that I typically put out right before Mando-Monday arrives. Now this week's episode of Mando-Monday, we have a handful of different interesting questions, such as the breakdown of CS2's first operation, when to expect it, what it should contain, new guns coming to CS2 as the devs have stated in the past that they're eventually coming to the game, old game modes returning such as Demolition, alongside a bunch more. But before we go any further, I want to thank SkinsMonkey for sponsoring today's video. Are you bored of your current Counter-Strike loadout and want to trade it out for something different? SkinsMonkey has you covered. As a buying and trading marketplace, SkinsMonkey offers amazing deals and the fastest way to trade out your old skins for something new. By using my code Mando, you can get up to a free $5 by spending $100 or more, as well as you also get a 35% deposit bonus when topping up your balance. With SkinsMonkey's large variety of skins, they also offer daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways. If interested, the link will be at the top of the description down below. Now, firstly, for today's video, I want to hop right into the meat and potatoes, that being the questions. But before we go any further, I do want to discuss the finale for the Austin Major. I am going to have a whole dedicated video just to the Major itself, probably within the next few days, but it was one of the most interesting events in Counter-Strike's very long history, especially just CS2 anyway. I mean, any and everyone we thought was going to win got knocked out in the very early stages, or pretty much last second. There didn't seem to be too many audio and visual problems from what I watched anyway, and from what Valve added into the Major, like the stickers, the viewer pass, it did a pretty good job. Let me know what you guys think and how'd you feel about it. Our first question up here for today's video is from Bake Lebowski, and he says, bring back Demolition. Now, Demolition, for those who don't know, was a mode from CSGO. I want to say it was from previous Counter-Strike titles, but I'm not 100% sure. My experience with this was on CSGO and other games such as Call of Duty. Demolition in CS was a pretty weird but fun mode. For those who don't know what it was essentially gun game competitive all mixed into one. A total of 10 rounds, somewhat like Search and Destroy from COD, and every single round you would change weapons, which made it very interesting, especially if your team or you as an individual got some really interesting guns. But you see, the reason I picked this question wasn't necessarily because I missed Demolition. I'll go more into this in a second. It's because Valve removed the fun, the cartoon feel, the vibe from CSGO going into CS2, and that's just completely gone nowadays. I mean, the most fun mode we have is gun game, and that's pretty much a wrap. But following the Austin Major, we really don't know what's going to be coming soon, since there is leaked night maps, new modes, new features, and some of that is returning from Go. We just don't know what that is yet. But I know a lot of your guys' questions to me, to Valve, and you ask me for Mando-Monday, is why Valve removed half these things from CSGO going into CS2. People just don't know why and how Valve made it make sense. So this is just my opinion, but from what I believe, Valve removed it, that being Demolition, alongside the other dozens of game modes, features, whatever else you could think of from CSGO and prior Counter-Strike titles, mainly because of the lack of people playing them. There just wasn't many. And for some, that might just be a hard pill to swallow. I think it's that. I also think it could be to do with some sort of laziness with CS2, maybe a growing fatigue. But if we also just put it out on paper, it doesn't look too good when your game has 100 different game modes to choose from. I'm trying my best not to relate this to Call of Duty, but it's also another game that when they have an annual release, they remove certain game modes throughout the previous title, implement them 3 titles later, but they mainly keep the core 10, let's just say, all together every year. Well, throughout the next year's game, when all the previous game modes were eventually added, and then they add more on top of that, and your game has, let's just say, 15 to 30 different game modes to choose from, yes, that gives the players choice, but it also gets to the point, especially when your game is slowly declining in player count, people are split on what to play, and really all that's populated left in your game is deathmatch, search and destroy, hardpoint, maybe domination, and that's about it. And the same thing goes with Counter-Strike, of why I believe anyway they removed Danger Zone, Flying Scoutsman, so on and so forth. Even though I do miss Flying Scoutsman, I hope they bring it back. So it really comes down to here, at least for Valve, of them finding the sweet spot of how much is too much. And they obviously don't want to oversaturate the game too much when the game first comes out, like right now with CS2, where if they add so many features, so many game modes right now, in 2 to 3, 5 years time, when this game is still going strong and growing in numbers, they can still add some more without it feeling too overpopulated. But for why Demolition was removed, really to conclude your question, is because not a whole lot of people played it, at least in the grand scheme of things. Our second comment and question up here for today's video is from a video of mine just a couple of weeks ago, and I get it quite often. Mainly what this guy's asking is what map or mod or whatever is in the background of my videos that's not Counter-Strike but looks like Counter-Strike, what am I playing? So aside from Counter-Strike, outside of that, I do play a lot of Call of Duty Zombies, that being Black Ops 3 Customs on Steam. With that being said, Black Ops Ops 3 pretty much has every single Counter-Strike title and their maps, their mods, anything you can think of related to CS, but on zombies. And it's absolutely amazing. And for those who don't know, when I'm doing a commentary, maybe ranting, talking about some sort of new feature, if there's some downtime in that video, if I get the chance, I'm gonna throw some footage in, and that's what I do. If you want that Counter-Strike feel, but on a different game with some sort of survival mode, Black Ops 3 is definitely the way to go, especially if you can get it on sale for $20 or under. Our next question up here is regarding an operation, and it's from Loudboy. He says, hey, I love your videos. Well, thank you so much. Do you think we're ever going to see another operation again? If we did get one, what would be the format? Long story short, yes, I do believe we're going to see some sort of operation in the future, but the short story is no. The overall answer is pretty complicated. So what this comes down to is I think Valve over the course of the last few years has essentially phased out operations, and the armory has essentially taken its place. Now, the biggest comment and concern for when I've said that in the past is that skins don't equal content, but nowadays that's how Valve considers content to be. And I mean, in the past, when you talk about operations, that's all they were. When people miss Operation Riptide, that's all it had to offer, aside from some weekly missions that are not much better than what we have right now. I think what a lot of people aren't really understanding and are seeing with Counter-Strike 2, at least at this moment, is that the weekly missions we do have, the bonus content updates we get near on a bi-monthly basis, is what has been and is currently filling the void within CS2. At this point, it doesn't really make any sense for Valve to add an operation with the pass back, missions with all those brand new features, and so on and so forth. It just doesn't. And the reasoning for that is because we already have it. It's just more spread out over time, and some may say it's actually more balanced and has better content in the long run, at least to some certain degree. So with that being said, I think sometime in the future, devs will eventually add something like co-op missions to the pass inside CS2 that we already have here. And who's to say we can't have some sort of armory pass mission or missions linked to the pass like we would have an operation in the past, where the operation passes from CSGO gave you drops, gave you stars to redeem for skins. Now, instead of weekly XP here in CS2, what if you have bought a pass in the past, you currently have a pass active, what if you could play some sort of co-op mission, different missions that you couldn't play before? Maybe you could redeem that for some sort of skin or some sort of in-game reward. And maybe it has to be completed with a certain amount of people under some certain requirements. So one, not everyone can get it, not every bot farmer and their mom's dog can also have one, and I think you guys get the rest with that. Now, for me personally, I think at the end of the day, the term operation has changed within CS2. It's not what it used to mean back in CSGO, it's just what we're getting, the terms of quality content, it's changed. Some might say for the better, a lot of people are probably going to say for the worse. But if you compare it to what we had back in CSGO, at least in the infant stages for those operations to now, all we get in operations is a case, some cosmetics, maybe a new game mode, some new features, and maybe aside from the skins, next to everyone would forget pretty much everything that was added in that operation, also maybe aside from the coin, by the time the next operation rolls around. Really all that's missing here within CS2 is some brand new features, co-op missions, and some sort of new objective that players actually enjoy, and not some filler slop that we've been receiving for quite some time within CS2. So what we have right now does work, it just needs to be improved and added on. Now, what do you guys think? Do you guys miss operations back from CSGO? I think it's also important to mention here that I also think a lot of people within the CS community also just miss that time period in their life a lot more than, well, what Counter-Strike actually was back then. That's just my personal opinion. Love to hear what you guys think down below. Long story short, I think operations will maybe make some sort of comeback in the future, but for being called Operation X or Operation 2025, I think those might be gone for good, but the idea of them will probably never leave Counter-Strike, if that makes any sort of sense. Our next question is one that I thought to quickly brief over, mainly because we get this so often on the channel. I usually answer it in commentaries and do my best to answer it one way or another within Mando-Monday, but it's mainly about Counter-Strike getting its identity back. This guy says night maps with new hostage missions, things like farmhouse extractions where CTs get dropped off by a boat or helicopter, Counter-Strike needing night vision again, similar to 1.6 in Source, and really that's just the beginning with a question like this. Yeah, Counter-Strike does need its identity back, because I hate to be on that train or be with that group of people who said CSGO was better. In terms of things like this, comments similar to this, yeah, you're 100% correct. And the sad truth to this is I don't want to answer for Valve because no one really knows, but I don't think Counter-Strike is ever really going to return to this. The main reason is because Counter-Strike 2 has gone from that fun, goofy, weird game that had custom game modes that were affiliated on official servers to now where it's just all competitive. It's very serious, but it also still has that cartoon aspect of things where everything's very bright, very vibrant, and not all dull and dry. But back in CSGO, that's what gave the game life. That's where things very much differ as of right now. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys miss Counter-Strike for how it used to be, with the example being this last question? Love to hear what you guys think. Now, our last question up here for today's video is in regards to new guns arriving for CS2 sometime in the near future. This question up here is from MP, and he says, when do you think we'll get new guns added to the game? So for those who don't know, there was an article about Counter-Strike 2 just around the time it released, and it was one of the first articles, at least least from my knowledge, that CS2 devs specifically at Valve did an interview with PC Gamer. Them doing an interview with anybody was a little out of the norm, but when they did, it took the community by surprise. They said a lot of interesting things, but the main one MP is pointing out in this question is about new guns arriving to CS2 sometime in the future. And just a little over a couple years ago, CS2 devs stated that they were going to be adding new guns to the game, mainly after year one of Counter-Strike 2 is completed. And while it's been over 1 year since the game fully launched, that being out of limited test, and we still haven't seen any to this day. If you ever see a question like that or some sort of comment, those people aren't insane because the devs have stated that they are going to add something like that sometime in the future. Like a lot of things in this article, what they've said has come true. It's just taking quite some time. For all the bugs and the quirks to be all fixed out, well, that's taken a little over 2 years instead of 1, or a little under that from what the devs originally stated. So I'm assuming all the content that we're going to be having, that might be not for the next few years, but who really knows? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about having new guns added to CS2. Do you guys think we really need them? Do you think it would give the game some more charm? And what weapon would you like to see added if you could only pick one? With that being said, that pretty much concludes today's episode of Mando Monday. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Ladies and gentlemen, fall out.